They say grief reshapes you. I didn't understand that until silence filled my house so completely it felt alive. After my husband died, I didn't cry right away. I just kept moving. I kept tending the rows of vegetables we'd planted together on our little patch of land at the edge of Maple Creek. He'd roofed houses under the southern sun for 30 years before his lungs gave out, leaving me the farm and memories baked into the soil. So I carried on. Plant. Harvest. Washington package. One morning, I opened the old wooden crate we'd built together, set up a table by the road, and called it good enough. It wasn't much, just a sun-faded umbrella, a chalkboard sign, and baskets of squash, heirloom tomatoes, and basil tied with twine. I didn't mean to start a business. I was just trying to keep him close. But people came. Mrs. Dixon from 3 houses down asked about my zucchini. Martin Hale, the retired firefighter, stopped for cucumbers. A teenage girl pedaled up breathless for the last pint of strawberries. Within months, it became rhythm. Thursdays and Sundays, folks knew where to find me. Some left exact change, some slipped in extra bills, others thank you notes. One woman said my kale helped her through chemo. It wasn't money, it was connection. That tiny stand became the heartbeat of a neighborhood that had forgotten how to breathe. When Maple Creek Estates was new, it still had soul. Kids running barefoot, wild hedges, porch lights that meant welcome. But after the HOA tightened its grip, every blade of grass had a measurement. Fences approved in only 2 shades, patio furniture needing permits. The whole place bent under quiet tyranny. My land sat right at the edge of their jurisdiction, a gray area. My stand was on my property, quiet and kind. Then Karen Whitfield moved in. I knew her kind before she even stepped from the moving van. Clipboard, sunglasses too big, lips drawn like she'd just tasted vinegar. Within weeks, she was at every HOA meeting, taking photos of planters, finding people for wind chimes and basketball hoops. I thought I was safe, technically outside her reach. Until the morning she came jogging up and asked, "Do you have a permit for this?" "For what?" "For selling produce in a residential zone." I laughed softly. "This is my land." "I'm aware," she snapped, snapping a photo. Cedar Valley bylaws prohibit unlicensed commerce visible from the public right-of-way. Then she walked off. By evening, a yellow violation notice flapped on my stand, signed in perfect cursive, Karen Whitfield, HOA enforcement chair. Fines up to $500 a day. She'd skipped every courtesy step and gone straight for blood. I didn't tear it up. I filed it beside the zoning maps my husband and I once used to defend our land. There it was, our old agricultural designation, grandfathered in before the HOA even existed. My stand was legal, but Karen didn't want legality. She wanted obedience. So I set up again the next morning, tomatoes shining in the sun, squash stacked like gold coins, a chalkboard that read fresh today. Pay what you can. By 9, my regulars rolled in. Martin leaned out his truck window. "Heard about the witch's letter. You closing?" I smiled. "Do I look closed?" He laughed. "Then I'm staying for backup." Others came. Quiet support, cash in jars, gentle words. By afternoon, the HOA voicemail left me a robotic threat about pending legal action. I stared at the corkboard above my sink, where an old photo showed me and my husband behind that same umbrella, chalkboard reading from our hands to your table. I whispered, "We're not done." That night, I walked into the HOA meeting at the community hall. Fluorescent lights, folding chairs, Karen front and center in her blazer. When my turn came, I held up my agricultural certificate. "This land is exempt under county law. You have no jurisdiction." She cut me off. "We enforce community value. Half this room buys from me." I said, "What value are you protecting?" Murmurs rose, parents, retirees, even teenagers nodding. For a second, she lost control. I didn't realize then that the seed of revolt had already been planted. 5 days later, I returned to find the gym nearly empty. Fear had spread faster than weeds. Karen had fined those who'd spoken up last time. Still, I stood. "You're overreaching," I told the board. A hired attorney read scripted nonsense about visual impact on neighborhood cohesion. They ruled against me, daily fines, property lien threats. My chest felt hollow, but I didn't let her see fear. That night, I texted an old friend, Lena Thompson at the city's agricultural office. "Need a favor." 2 mornings later, I woke to diesel engines. A pair of trucks marked Brightview Property Services idled by the curb. 4 men climbed out with power tools. Karen's SUV pulled in behind them. I met them halfway down the drive. This is private property. You're trespassing. One worker hesitated. Ma'am, the HOA said. It's not theirs. I have county authorization. Karen strode up, heels clicking. We have board approval. You don't have legal standing. Tell that to the truck, she said, smug. The man lifted a crowbar, then froze at a voice from the road. No, you won't, said Martin Hale, arms folded, calm as a mountain. Unless you've got a court order, you're not touching a thing. Cars began pulling in. Angela Reed, the night shift nurse, quiet Eleanor Price, even kids on bikes. No one had called them. They just came. This stand is illegal, Karen barked. Darius Cole, the local reporter, stepped forward with his phone recording. Funny, he said. County Agriculture says otherwise. Karen blanched. The workers backed off. Phones buzzed, whispers spread, and within 20 minutes, the trucks rolled away. The crowd clapped softly. The witch had been disarmed. Karen slammed her SUV door and sat there, stunned. I looked at Martin. Thought you didn't like fights, he said. I don't, I answered. But I won't be erased. The next morning someone had written across the sidewalk in red chalk. We stand with Margaret. Beneath it, smaller, real food, real people, no HOA bullies. I laughed through tears. By noon, neighbors set up chairs, sweet tea, even music. The air felt alive again. Darius filmed interviews for the Maple Creek Chronicle. One veteran said, I fought in 2 wars and never thought I'd defend vegetables. When the TV station arrived, the reporter asked, why not just stop? I looked around at the faces, the signs, the kids chalking carrots on the pavement. Because this isn't about convenience, I said. It's about roots. At 3 p.m., Karen arrived, parking right on the sidewalk. You've turned this into a circus, she hissed. No, I said softly. You did. When you forgot that this was a community, not your kingdom. Before she could answer, Mayor Olivia Barnes herself walked up in jeans and a windbreaker. She smiled for the cameras. What's happening here, she said, is democracy, and we'll be reviewing the HOA's authority immediately. Cheers erupted. Karen turned and left without a word. The next morning, peace finally felt possible. People brought muffins, herbs, even their own produce to add to my table. The newspaper headline read, Farm Stand Sparks Town Revolt. Darius pulled me aside. We found more, he said. Karen funneled HOA contracts to her cousin's company. City's opening an ethics inquiry. By sunset, the neighborhood was buzzing with whispers. Board members who once hid behind her were suddenly smiling at me in the grocery aisle. One even emailed anonymously. She's calling an emergency vote Thursday to label your stand a public nuisance. Don't let her. I called Lena. She sighed. File a petition at City Hall tomorrow. Once it's on record, she's blocked. So I did. I marched into that marble building in my worn boots, folder under my arm, 120 neighbor signatures in tow. By the time I left, the city had issued a formal freeze on all HOA actions against my property. That same hour, the local news flashed. City launches ethics investigation into HOA Chair Karen Whitfield. She was unraveling. But I wasn't done yet. Thursday night, the community center overflowed. Channel 6 cameras. Folding chairs packed. And this time, I wasn't alone. Laura Bennett, Carl Rivera, and Greg Hanley, 3 board members, sat beside me. Karen tried to call the meeting to order, but Laura spoke first. I moved for a vote of no confidence. Karen sputtered. Out of order. Not according to the charter, Carl replied. We have quorum. The motion passed 3-2. Karen was out. She left without looking back, clipboard clutched like a broken crown. When the door shut, no one cheered. We just breathed. The fear was gone. A week later, the new board met again, this time to rebuild, not punish. They drafted the Bennett provision, allowing small community stands and swaps under safe, simple rules. Someone suggested another name. The room voted unanimously to call it the Harper Amendment, after me. The next Saturday, Maple Creek held its first harvest exchange. My stand wasn't alone anymore. Martin sold honey. Eleanor brought soaps. Kids peddled lemonade. No one asked for permits. No one feared letters. The mayor stopped by quietly, bought a jar of jam, and left a small envelope. Inside was a certificate that read, for preserving the heart and soul of Maple Creek. At the bottom, in her handwriting, sometimes justice doesn't come from courts, it comes from courage. I hung it on the stand wall where sunlight hit it every morning. Not a trophy, just a reminder. Karen moved away soon after. Rumors said she tried to join another HOA across town. I didn't hate her. I just hoped she learned what silence feels like from the other side. Now the neighborhood blooms again. Fences painted in colors no rulebook could name. Kids selling crafts under the oak tree. On the chalkboard above my table, new words are written. This stand belongs to everyone. On Sundays, neighbors bring coffee and stories. Teens strum guitars. Old folks trade cuttings from their gardens. We don't measure grass anymore. We measure kindness. One afternoon, a woman I didn't know stopped by. I don't have money today, she said. That's all right, I told her. You've got a story. She laughed, told me about her first garden, the basil that survived, the tomatoes that didn't. I gave her a bag of green beans. Before she left, she pointed to the sign. Everyone, huh? Everyone, I said. Bring something next time. And she will. They always do. I never set out to start a rebellion. I just wanted to hold on to what I loved. But maybe change doesn't come from speeches. It comes from soil, from hands, from neighbors who finally remember they belong to one another. Now when I water the rosemary at dawn, I still talk to my husband. I tell him what's blooming, what's failed, what's growing again. And I like to think he's smiling, because we didn't just keep the farm alive. We kept the spirit of Maple Creek alive too.